It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Larry P. Arnn, the 12th president of Hillsdale College. President Arnn received his bachelor's degree from Arkansas State University and his MA and PhD in government from the Claremont Graduate School. He served as director of research for Sir Martin Gilbert, the official biographer of Winston Churchill. And from 1985 to 2000, he served as president of the Claremont Institute for the Study of Statesmanship and Political Philosophy. In 1996, he was the founding chairman of the California Civil Rights Initiative, which was passed by California voters and prohibited racial preferences in state hiring, contracting, and admissions. Dr. Arnn is on the board of directors of the Heritage Foundation, the Henry Salvatori Center of Claremont McKenna College, the Philadelphia Society, the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, and the Claremont Institute. He served on the U.S. Army War College Board of Board of Visitors for 2 years, for which he earned the Department of the Army's Outstanding Civilian Service Medal. In 2015, Dr. Arnn received the Bradley Prize from the Lynd and Harry Bradley Foundation. He is a member of the American Political Science Association, the Churchill Center, the Council for National Policy, the Federalist Society, the Mont Pelerin Society, and the Philanthropy Roundtable. He has published widely in national newspapers, magazines, and periodicals on issues of public policy, history, and political theory. He is also the author of 3 books: Liberty and Learning, The Evolution of American Education, The Founder's Key, The Divine and Natural Connection Between the Declaration and the Constitution and What We Risk by Losing It, and most recently, Churchill's Trial, Winston Churchill in the Salvation of Free Government. Dr. Arnn is here a professor of politics and history at Hillsdale. He teaches courses on Aristotle, Winston Churchill, and the American Constitution. He and his wife Penelope have 4 children: Henry, Katie, Alice, and Tony. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Larry Arnn.
Thank you, David, very much. Congratulations to the Pi Phis. My daughter was a Pi Phi, and I expect them to win. Congratulations to the Sigma Chi's. I think it was only 6 months ago that Tom Connor and Mike Connor were getting ready to kill those guys. Now they're a bunch of scholars. Well done. Knowing the students around here, is anybody else, as I am, surprised that the boys get as close to the girls as they get? And I am sorry to report that Matthew Sullivan did in fact graduate with a 4.0 last year. And there is that creeping up thing going on, so what are you guys doing? Trustee Michael Bozick passed away about a month ago. We saw him the week before he died. He was a Pittsburgh man. He ran Sears Retailing. He was delightful. He came to our reception in Pittsburgh a few days before he died, insisted on getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to drive me to the airport. He was hilarious and insightful, and he loved our college. And our hearts go out to his family, his wife Steffi, and his children. I see the chairman of the board and his wife sitting back there. They live in town now. It must be fun for all of you. They're excellent entertainers, and the chairman is blind, but there's no coddling going on here. In fact, there's enormous opportunities to walk him into things, and I personally am very advanced at that now. See, now doesn't he feel part of the place? Stanley Ames is here. He is the father of our late colleague, Brittany, who died a junior in a traffic accident in 2014. And I welcome him back, and we remember his daughter with love and respect. Thank you for coming, sir. College is well, financially well, doing pretty good. Last year we just had, the last 2 years have been unprecedented things. We've just done very well. This year we're not doing that well, but we're ahead of budget, and we don't really know, this year's pretty young, how well we're going to do. We hope to have massive and historic events, but also we hope to just make the budget. It looks like we can probably do that. Academically, the freshman class are very good. How many freshmen are here today? Yeah, welcome to your first convocation. We have to talk about convocation because we have to make the freshmen come, I've decided. Because you can make them do anything. They don't know any better. There seems to be more stories of the freshmen avoiding me this year than is typical. And I want you to know I'm hunting for you. And I will find you. It's not that hard. Our low-power radio station is operating in some sense or another, and we've hired somebody to run that thing, and Vince Benedetto in Pennsylvania is behind that whole plot. And it sounds to me like the dumbest idea ever in history, and it's going to cause us nothing but trouble. But so far, it's not any trouble, so I'm not too mad about it right now. But the first time one of you kids get on the radio and say something stupid, which will be the first time you get on the radio, there was an argument between our basketball coach and the basketball coach of a prominent school in our existing athletic conference about how we could leave such distinguished schools as his own and others in the GLIAC. And our basketball coach said, well, you don't actually understand quite what we do down there at Hillsdale College. It's not the same kind of thing. And so I'm particularly pleased to say that this year there were 27 of the 400 Division II schools that won the President's Award for Academic Excellence, and we are one of the 27, and the only member of the GLIAC to win it. And let me just say, na 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 na. Women's cross country is third in the nation, and that means they're slowing down a little bit. I don't know what's going on there. The auspices for basketball and both men's and women's are good. The football team has won 4 games in a row, I think, and doing pretty good academically. If they win and they're the smartest, that's what we like from our athletic teams around here. What's the state of play? It's good. We're okay. Most of our competitors are collapsing. It's a very serious situation in liberal education. The reasons for those collapse are very deep, and they're threatening to us. This fall, the federal government omitted us from their scorecard. We know why that happened now. The reason it happened is it's an exercise in big data. Big data is how Google knows, where you are right now. They actually even know, in fact, I can do through Google Analytics, I can know what every member of the faculty is thinking about buying right now. Well, the federal government has gone into that game, right? And so what they're doing is they have the income tax database and lots of other databases. And what they're doing is they're taking the student loan database, and the student loans are a national crisis, They actually threaten the fisc of the richest country in human history. And they're taking all that data and they're trying to paint a picture of all the colleges in the land, how they do in turning out people who get rich, or at least pay their bills. Well, we can't be in that, really. We hope to get mentioned in it. But the truth is, we don't have the data to give them, because we're not the government. Our loans are private. And so we can't get in that thing, probably. That's actually the reason. They might have said that. They might have said, we're concerned about the national crisis in student loans. Of course, we're not going to take responsibility for that. We're going to continue to blame all the colleges. We give money for that. But because Hillsdale College doesn't take our money, and also, by the way, does not have a crisis in student loans, our default rates are 1%, which is commercially excellent if they were ordinary loans. And we put a cap on how much people borrow around here. And you guys, gosh, you're coming here nearly free. There actually is in town, and we're confused for it sometimes, a Hillsdale Beauty College that is the recipient of federal government funds. And their tuition is not far off ours. and probably more than we actually collect. They might have said, "Isn't that good? Wow, look at that." Even the kids that go there are going pretty cheap, because of those people who are lined up right there from visiting, mostly members of the President's Club, I see. They could have said, "Isn't that a grand thing? And we're sorry we left you off, but we're prepared to mention your name in this thing because you're not part of this crisis we're trying to deal with." No, what they said was, because they didn't really know, of course, why they left us off. It is, after all, a big country, and they're trying to run all of it. Who could ever know all those details? So what they said was, they don't really give degrees there, just certificates. Now that's not stupid, that's dog stupid. But this powerful place, they said that thing, right? And that is a mixture of ignorance and arrogance and contempt. Because the mighty ought to think what they can do. Because, we've been fielding phone calls about whether, in fact, we give degrees. And we reply what I replied to the reporter from the Collegian. Hillsdale College, 1844. Department of Education, 1979. They're new to the game and they haven't figured it out yet. But they have power in the game, and they wish to convert the game around measurements of how people serve as factors of production. You seniors there, next semester we'll say goodbye to you. You're going to be really great factors of production. But the reason for that is you are factors of good. That is what your parents want. That is what you want for your own happiness. That is what your country ought to want. And it doesn't. And that's dangerous. So we're going to soldier on. And if we have to fight them, and we likely will, then we're going to fight them hard. In the end, we're going to win. Because the good is not the most important thing to know, only that it is also the most powerful thing. The Daughtry Award is given for excellence in teaching, in the spring to a senior, and in the fall to a junior faculty member. It comes from an anonymous gift from Susan McNear. Her great friend Howard Shaw was just here. Howard is 92, and he's gone back to flying airplanes. He was a pilot in his youth in the Air Force, fought in the war, and now he's flying again. And he was just here, and he and Susan, they're widowed, both of them, and they're very close friends, but as he will tell you when they're making room reservations, we don't cohabit. Lest we think that this friendship is romantic, which it appears not to be. And they're just as close as they can possibly be, and he didn't bring Susan. And so I wrote her a letter and told her that I was going to respect, in my customary way, her demand for anonymity this semester, and that we all wish her well, and we do. Now, this year's, this term's Daughtry winner is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. There has to be some, I've always thought we rigged this thing. But this time it's a sign that we don't rig it, right? Because here's what's happening. The Daughtry winner this year is a graduate of Hillsdale College. He was our outstanding senior man. He dated and has since married a woman who's in this room who's infinitely too beautiful for him. She was a really great, she was in the chamber choir, used to see her all the time sitting up there. I had a very lively sense of her when she was a student, and she was an excellent swing dancer, so good that she made her now husband look good, which was a tall order. He holds his MA and his PhD from UPenn. He won, I never thought I would read these words because I didn't know these words existed, the Ezio Cappadocia Prize for Best Unpublished Manuscript from the Society of Italian Historical Studies. I bet the competition was fierce for that one. truth is, this young man, he's a man now, although it's very difficult for me to admit it, he'll always be a boy to me, has done everything in his life excellently, including being a student here and now a faculty member here. And so for the first time in my experience, the speaker at Convocation, chosen because he was Professor of the Year last spring, is also the winner of the Daughtry Award, which cuts some time out of the program. He is an awesome young man, and it's wonderful to have him on the faculty here. He has an Ivy League degree, and he has been told by some of them that you can go anywhere. I mean, after all, you have won the Ezio Cappadocia Prize. So you could go anywhere and teach. Why would you teach there? And I know he's told me the answer he gives them. It's love. So we should love him back. Matthew Gaetano. Mark Colcott. Mark here. We need Mark. He gets money and a plaque, and the department gets money. And Blackstock, I think, is the one who thought of that, and I think he was just thinking they'll be jealous if they don't get money too.
President Arnn, faculty, staff, students, and guests, thank you for the opportunity to address you briefly today. I also want to express gratitude in absentia to the class of 2015 for their generosity towards me last spring. They arrived at Hillsdale in fall 2011, just as I began my time here in the history department. So their kindness towards me was particularly meaningful. I am very humbled to be speaking to all of those assembled here today. So many dear friends, so many who have mentored me, not merely since I arrived here 4 years ago, but who first introduced me to the life of the mind 14 years ago. I owe an unpayable debt to my teachers, and I hope that these remarks are a small token of this immense gratitude. The communion that we share, because of our pursuit of knowledge for its sheer beauty and goodness, because of the mission of this place, and because of the friendships that bind together the faculty, students, and administration at Hillsdale, this communion makes it a joy for us to be called together today. But in universities across this country, being convoked to talk about common purposes poses a serious challenge. Our peer institutions face fragmentation. Does this result from utilitarian approaches to education? If education is about nothing but job training, then the university is merely at the service of those various career goals of the thousands of students who happen to be at that place. But perhaps more deeply, such institutions worry about the possibility of being called together for common aims because of the idea of two cultures, famously put forward by C.P. Snow, a lament about the gulf of mutual incomprehension between scientists and literary intellectuals. Why might it be difficult to gather professors in the sciences and those in the humanities? Some have wanted to put blame on the hard sciences. These critics have coined the term scientism to describe the view that the scientific method is the only way of approaching the truth. The natural sciences, as some in the humanities say, privilege mathematical modeling, statistics, and experimentation in a way that might turn literary analysis or theological speculation into little more than entertaining diversions, and that elicits so-called physics envy among scientists and even historians. But the natural sciences should not bear this entire burden. Indeed, if we find ourselves tempted to look at the humanities as a means of salvaging the shared purposes of the university, we must recall that some leaders of the very movement to make the humanities central to higher education were themselves rather dismissive of the study of nature. The humanists of the Italian Renaissance, devoted to poetry, rhetoric, and history, wanted to study what is ethically significant. They committed themselves to the studia humanitatis, the study of human things, not because they were replacing God with man, but because they believed that the technical, academic theology and philosophy of the universities had little bearing on what really mattered to human life. The father of humanism, Petrarch, sees this unedifying academic spirit as infecting even Aristotle's treatment of morality. I have read all of Aristotle's moral books, but I myself remain the same. Aristotle teaches what virtue is, I do not deny that. But his lesson lacks the words that sting and set afire and urge towards love of virtue and hatred of vice. What subjects might have these words that sting? For Petrarch, the orator can imitate Cicero and move his audience to a life of virtue. The historian provides the examples of moral excellence to make such lessons concrete. And the poet has an inner and divinely given energy infused in his spirit. The study of nature, what Petrarch's 14th century contemporaries generally called physics, did not have such power. And so Petrarch turned one current of the humanist program against natural science. While Petrarch spent a bit of time attacking the Aristotelian scholastics for their errors in their discussions of natural phenomena, he didn't stop there. Even if the accounts of nature were true, he says, they would not contribute anything whatsoever to the blessed life. What's the use, I beseech you, of knowing the nature of quadrupeds, fowls, fishes, and serpents, and not knowing or even neglecting man's nature, the purpose for which we are born, and whence and whereto we travel? To put it simply, Petrarch does not see the connection of biology and happiness. He counsels us to turn our attention to our own human nature, our origins, and our ultimate purpose. Indeed, Petrarch sees humanism's modest focus on the human being as less arrogant and therefore more Christian than the way that the schoolmen and Aristotle inquire into nature. We accept in humble faith the secrets of nature and the mysteries of God. They attempt to seize them in haughty arrogance. They strike heaven with their fists. Now, humanism is, of course, a very complex phenomenon. Petrarch is a difficult figure to pin down. But I have heard remarks like these, even from students of the humanities here. They have asked about the real significance of the study of nature. Does it really matter if we know about the nature of light, the chemical components of DNA, or the positions of the stars and planets? Should we not rather attend to the meaning and purpose of human life? Centuries before Petrarch, Aristotle answered this last question. There were thinkers in his day, like Simonides, who said that because we are human, we must think of human things. Because we are mortal, we must think of mortal things. Aristotle rejected such limits on human thought. We must, he said, so far as we can, make ourselves immortal and strain every nerve to live in accordance with the best thing in us. Even if those activities in keeping with that divine in us, our reason, only take up a small part of our lives, much more do they in power and worth surpass everything. What does the best of humanism tell us about the human being anyway? That we are animals capable of reasoning and articulate speech, that human beings desire to know about things that are not human, that go beyond what is necessary for human survival. Now, Aristotle says that all human beings by nature desire to know in the opening of his Metaphysics, where he immediately points his students to a science that deals with divine objects. So aren't we just now pitting the humanists attending to history and poetry against the philosophers devoted to metaphysics and epistemology? Where does this leave the students of the natural world? Whatever his failings as a scientist, Aristotle praised those, even his philosophical opponents, who dwell in intimate association with nature and its phenomena. But he knew, even in his day, that many of those encountering his metaphysics or his ethics would not understand why a major philosopher would even take the time to compose an entire book on the parts of animals. How few of us today allow the image of Aristotle the biologist to shape our picture of the philosopher. So towards the beginning of this work on natural science, on the parts of animals, Aristotle tells his readers a story. Strangers came to the home of the famous philosopher Heraclitus. They perhaps traveled there expecting to hear his profound teachings on the flux or the fire. But they found him at the furnace in his kitchen. The visitors were embarrassed. They said that they would return at a more opportune time. But Heraclitus welcomed them in. He said that they should not be afraid to enter his kitchen, adding, "For there are gods here too." The fire of the humble kitchen, even Heraclitus baking bread, could illuminate the structures of reality. Likewise, Aristotle believed that one must not recoil with childish aversion from the examination of the humbler animals. He continues, "Every realm of nature is marvelous. For just as there were gods in the kitchen of Heraclitus, so we should venture on the study of every kind of animal without distaste, for each and all will reveal to us something natural and something beautiful." All of nature, not only the human being, not only what is studied in metaphysics, make manifest reality and can be encountered as beautiful. Indeed, Aristotle answers rather directly the charge presented to him by Petrarch and the occasional student of the humanities centuries later. If any person think that the examination of the rest of the animal kingdom an unworthy task, he must hold in like disesteem the study of the human being. As animals ourselves, the study of biology is a study of our nature according to its animality. Moreover, as actually existing beings, would not we appropriately extend our inquiries to all that exists? But we cannot remain here with such self-orientation. As rational animals, Aristotle thinks that we should cherish the study of all natural things, because it is here that we approach what is beautiful. A rich account of the nature of the human being and man's rational capacity then should nourish an openness to the study of the natural world, from the stars to the humblest animals and the electron, for there are gods here too. I originally planned to turn at this point to statements of Darwin, Einstein, and Heisenberg about the beauty of the natural world. But if Aristotle, the Greek metaphysician and ethicist, could describe the study of apparently ignoble animals as the divine pursuit, how much more would we expect such language from the architects of modern science? Instead, I want to offer a brief answer to Petrarch's other charge. Is it not arrogance to think that we can penetrate the secrets of nature? Is it not to push oneself beyond the limits of human nature to say that we are open to the study of reality as a whole? It would be perversely dogmatic to say that one can actually possess knowledge of all of reality. We certainly cannot comprehend or contain all of what is true within ourselves. But the solution to this kind of dogmatism is not a skeptical claim that there is no way of relating oneself to truth as such. rather an ecstatic conception of reason, dissolves both dogmatic arrogance and skeptical indifference. If reason is ecstatic, it means that its proper end stands in a fundamental way outside of itself. Reason is always out beyond what we possess. To paraphrase Aristotle's predecessor Socrates, we know that we are not wise. But to make such a claim, that we know that we are not wise, we must have some, however mysterious, however wonderful, awareness of that about which we are ignorant. And we must not stop our pursuing, indeed loving, what is true. It is unsurprising, then, that Socrates also says that the only thing I say I understand is the art of love. We are part of a reality that is worthy of being pursued, desired, loved, even though the whole can never be possessed. This note of love is where I will finally leave things today. What does this critique of a narrow humanism mean for us, for me? Should I go down to the laboratory? Should I take part in dissections? Should I relearn integral calculus? I probably should. But I think that the friendships that exist here have already created the unity that can multiply our labors. Friendship lets each of us take part in the limited and finite but real grasp of reality experienced by all the rest. There's a passage in Augustine's Confessions that weaves together all of these themes, uniting the beauty of friendship, a shared longing for what is true, and indeed an openness to the divine. When I was with my friends, my mind was occupied with our talking and laughing, reading good books together, disagreeing without animosity, as one might disagree with one's own self, and finding that our rare disagreements seasoned our usual concord, teaching and learning from one another, sorely missing those who were gone, and welcoming with joy those who came. These and such like signs, coming from hearts that loved one another, were the kindling of a fire that melted our minds together and made the many of us one. Thank you.